Hey, what's up? What's going on out there? I was checking out this video with Rich Eisen, and he was talking to this guy from Sports Illustrated about why Shedeur Sanders slipped in the draft, and he gave an interesting take, pretty much the same take I've been giving people and been telling people why. But I'm gonna push play and let's check out the video, and I'm gonna give my one too.
I'll give you a couple of minutes here, even though we've been talking about it for days. But why did Shador slip to fifth round status, Albert? You're reporting on
Um,
that.
so he slipped out of the first round because of talent and performance. I think that really was the long and short of it. I don't think he was seen as a first round talent by very many people. And fair or not, like that was the feedback I got from a lot of people I trust.
Okay.
Like that they just did not see a first round talent. Now again, and I think I've said this to you on the show a couple of times, doesn't mean he can't go in the first round because if you find a team that sees you differently, that sees you as a fit. I mean, Bo Nix was that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of teams didn't think Bo Nix was a first round talent. There was a fit there for him in Denver. So like I think like when you're talking about why you didn't go in the first round, the second round, I think it was talent and performance. I think after
Exactly. That's what I've been telling people from the beginning. When this whole thing, it seemed like some people were in the uproar about him not going in the first round, and especially not going in the second round. I think it's a mix of people not understanding that some of these teams that draft didn't have him as high. They didn't have him as a high first or second round pick. They just didn't have him that high on his board. And I think him, his family, and some people out there think he's better than what he is. Now, me personally, I think he's a very skilled player. He has great anticipation pre and post snap, with making the right reads, very accurate, tough. But he does some things I've seen, and I've watched a bunch of Colorado games. He kind of drifts in the pocket a little bit, and that could be because of the offensive line with some trash and so-so. And he just made some pocket uh, awareness choices. I didn't see why he would do it. Instead of stepping up in some instances, he didn't. Like I said, just kind of drifting around in the pocket. But other than that, me personally, I think he could have went between the first or the third. And I wasn't really shocked. There was just some people out there I knew that they were just shocked, like, oh, he should have been a first round pick. He's the first pick overall. These teams are passing on him. They're trying to blackball him and stuff. But at the end of the day, like I was telling some people, it doesn't matter because they've been taking people with character issues since I could remember in the NFL. If Shador was performing at a level like his dad was at the quarterback position, he could have peed on Jerry Jones' desk or whatever owner he wanted to, and he would have been the first overall pick. Period.
that, it was everything else. And I think whether you like it or not, football coaches want their backup quarterbacks to blend in with the furniture, and they want them to like be seen, not heard. And it's a huge reason of why like
I disagree with him right there, being a backup quarterback. I think if he gets in the right system, just like any other QB, but for him specifically with his skill set, I think he's going to do very, very well. I don't think he's a backup, especially based on the quarterback I've seen, the quarterback play I've seen this year. It's been besides like maybe those in the top 10, you could just throw everybody else out there. Like he was talking about Bo Nix. And I give Bo Nix this. He looked way better than I thought he was, especially getting picked that high. He had a very good year. I think I don't want to say he peaked out, but he gave a good peek into what he might just be, which I think he's a good, solid player. But like I said, like I think if Shador's in like the right, space, I think he's going to do very well, just like, Bo Nix did.
guys who like quote unquote bring a lot with them didn't have like second lives to their careers, like Cam Newton, Jay Cutler. It's why guys like Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick didn't get continued shots at going in the league, at staying in the league. People don't want to hear that, but it's the reality of it. Is like first and foremost, you want your backup quarterback to be a resource to the starter. If he's young, you want it to be someone you can develop, and you want it to be someone who's going to do all of that in the shadows. And so, like, I think once you get out of the first or second round, now you're looking at depth and developmental guys and it became hard because of everything else for teams to see Shedeur Sanders that way. And so it became, well, just give me that guy over here who I know is going to develop and who I know is not going to be a problem and who I know, when the guy at his position slips up, we're not going to have to hear about. Just give me that guy. And I honestly believe that's a big part of it. And then, I think the other element too, Rich, to be honest, like, and I think this is where they screwed up his process a little bit, is like he handled the process like he was a top 10 lock, and he never was.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, somebody said it. And I've been watching these media pundits, these so-called scouts or heads of, these scouting departments, not necessarily with teams, uh, not really keep it real. This guy's just keeping it real. Some people didn't see him or view him as a top 10 pick, period. Now, again, it doesn't matter what these bloggers and all these fake analysts and these fake talent evaluators out here think is what the NFL teams think.
And so what did that mean? Well, that meant that he was narrowing down the teams he was willing to go to. He was treating this team different than that team in an interview based on where he wanted to land. And unfortunately, like when you're not a top 10 pick, like you can't handle the process that way because you don't know how the draft's going to fall. So you have to put your best foot forward with everybody. And so, like, did that knock off some teams that might have liked him and took him in the third round or fourth round? I think it certainly could have like narrowed the pool of teams that were willing to take him. So I think it's those things kind of in tandem. The pool of teams willing to take him because of the way that he handled the process, and then also just kind of the makeup of what teams are looking for in their backup quarterback.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live.
Well, again, I think he had a very, very good take. Like it was straight to the point. The whole thing with Shedeur, he is not as good as he thinks, his family thinks, or some people out there think. Not to say that he won't go in the league and just take off, because I think he will. Now, what's going to happen to him now? He's got drafted in the fifth round, and people that went before him, like Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, those guys, and it was like the two other quarterbacks. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. That's definitely, to me, he could have been taken before them. Honestly, to me, he's better. Even that kid, Dart or whatever. But, at the end of the day, it's the NFL team's decision. And like he was saying, like, look, if you're not a top 10, top 5 lock pick, then you can't go about the interview process doing certain things or saying who you don't want to play for, what you're going to do, this and that. Because your talent is not meeting those expectations, if you catch my drift. Now, again, if he was like talented like his daddy, like I said, he could pull an R. Kelly and pee on the owner's desk and they still would pick him. But again, he gave a good feedback, and Shedeur's going to have to fight, for a spot, because the fifth round is kind of like you may or may not make the team, kind of like he was saying, developmental guys. But I think he's going to make it. Cody, my fault, not Cody, Pickett. He's been playing all right. They got Flacco, the other kid, Dylan Gabriel. I think he's a good athlete too, but I just don't, see it. I thought he was going to be like a later round pick, but to me, the Shedeur pick was a owner's choice. But he's going to have to fight. He might get limited reps, but he's going to have to take advantage of those reps, or he might get cut. But like I said, I think he's going to do well in the league as long as he take advantage of his reps. But yeah, that's my 1-2. Leave your commentary. Let me know what you think.